This could easily be mistaken as a pinewood cupboard, and you'd think this swing was made with old-fashioned timber. But in fact, these products haven't been created by Mother Nature, they come from a machine. Millions of dollars worth of equipment have been installed at this Adamstown plant to create the simulated product Everwood. While the exact formula is a secret, it's a mixture of resin-based materials run through special high-temperature mills. The product comes out finished, ready to be put onto the house, the furniture or the boat. In this era of environmental awareness, Everwood say they are green to their fingertips.
Saves the trees. You can have all the features and benefits of wood without chopping down the trees. Somewhere for the birds still to sleep at night.
This factory is the first commercial unit in the world, with $20 million planned to be spent here in the next 3 years. Through their Dutch parent company Rockwell, 200 more Everwood plants are on the drawing board for a worldwide expansion.
The tobacco and cigarette advertising industry is under attack on all fronts, with the latest volley being fired in the federal court. But it was Newcastle that hit the headlines last week when council adopted unprecedented bans on advertising space and public buildings. The practicability of policing such bans has moved a step closer to reality.
Really, it's set in granite, the regulations now in relation to passive smoking. Council's task, well, of course, will be much easier because people will be aware of the very great risks that are involved if they interfere with the good health and well-being of people who don't want to share a cigarette.
The Newcastle Quit for Life movement says it has the medical and scientific facts to wage its fight against smoking. 23,000 lung cancer deaths directly attributed to smoking last year, along with another 140 deaths attributed to passive smoking. Now it has the court ruling and looks forward to its ramifications.
I think that it will mean that all workplaces will have to really address the smoking problem in the workplace. Many have already done so. I think that all workplaces will have to do something about it. All public places will have to address the issue of smoking in public places, as will restaurants and other places like that.
Parents voiced their anger in a sign outside the school. Inside, the 30-year 4 pupils were having their lessons in the library or sitting patiently on the floor of their new classroom. However, for their school principal, patience was running out.
Not very happy. My parents aren't happy, my children aren't happy. The teacher's not very happy. I just don't think it's very good at all to have children carting gear backwards and forwards and taking lessons sitting on the floor, which is what they are doing at the moment.
But even as we spoke, the 15 desks and 30 chairs were finally being delivered to the school. It should have been the perfect end to this story. But though the principal was dismayed at the damage and graffiti on the second-hand equipment, the children were overjoyed at having at least something to sit on. While they watched their furniture arrive, staff prepared for a big clean-up. New furniture would have taken an extra 8 weeks to be delivered, and that, according to the school, would have been 8 weeks too late.
The wrangle between parents and the department began last year, and local unions have joined the battle.
That's a very important issue as far as the trade union movement is concerned, and we weren't prepared to see an established facility dismantled and taken somewhere else.
During the Christmas holidays, they placed a green ban on the building and have so far managed to stop its transportation. In response, the Education Department unbolted the 3 sections of the structure and declared it unsafe for children, and the care centre moved its activities into the playground. Members of 5 unions have replaced the bolts and say they'll make sure the building stays. The Aftercare Committee has not yet accepted the department's offer of a room in Hamilton South Assembly Hall or space at nearby schools. The unions agree the alternatives are no solution to the problem.
No, they're not viable options, and quite frankly I'm amazed that the department has offered the alternatives that have been offered. They nowhere near comply with state government regulations. They appear to be shifting deck chairs really. I mean, it appears that they have a shortage of demountables, and where there's a demand it appears they go to some other school, move a demountable that's already in existence and transfer it somewhere else.
The childcare service is expected to resume inside the building on Monday. Alison Peters for NBN News.
The motorcyclists, all with their lights switched off, stretched 4 kilometres along the highway. With light-buster symbols and a heavy police presence, the bikers rode into Newcastle to the office of Land Transport Minister Bob Brown. They were angry over plans to introduce compulsory lights-on legislation for motorcycles manufactured from next year, meaning that when the ignition is started, the lights automatically switch on.
Basically, we don't want to be treated like idiots. We can decide whether we want the headlight on or not, whether the circumstances warrant it.
The bikers condemned Mr Brown for what they called broken promises in allowing the legislation to proceed. They say Mr Brown was invited to attend the rally but refused. Speaking on the phone from his Curry home, Bob Brown said he had not been invited and stated the legislation was not an issue of personal choice but safety. Road statistics showed 98 motorcyclists were killed on the state's roads in 1989. Bob Brown claims the lights-on move will save 10 lives Australia-wide in the first 12 months. 12,000 pamphlets were distributed by the bikers in Mr Brown's electorate, calling for voters to banish the minister from Parliament. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
In muggy conditions, the big hits were on early whether you had the ball or not. But it was the Roosters who opened the scoring, and it came from a Knights error. The pass from David Boyd going astray with Jeff Walters not being able to handle, and the east winger Totem was on the end of a couple of passes, and he sprinted 55 metres to touchdown for a 4-pointer. It didn't take long before the Knights hit back, and after a sustained period of attack, Carter got the ball onto Tony Kemp, onto lock Wayne Richards, and David Thorne steamed onto the Richards pass and was able to barge his way over. The Roosters were then caught napping. They were penalised from the scrum for being up inside the 5 when it looked as if Tony Kemp would score. But quick thinking by the 5'8" saw him take a quick tap, and with brute strength he was able to reach out and score to stretch the Knights' lead. But East weren't done, and it was a tiring Knights outfit that allowed David Shepherd accept a brilliant reverse pass and crash over close to the uprights. The final Knights try confused everyone. Richards was close to the line and he towed the ball forward from play the ball. It went loose in the in goal, and quick thinking by Scott Carter saw the hooker dive on the ball, and the referee awarded the try. Final score, Newcastle BP Knights 16, Eastern Suburbs 8.
Police were called to the beach just after 8:30 this morning after the young woman was shot in the arm with a spear from this gun. She was sleeping in the cab of a utility at the time.
There was a guy over there playing with a spear gun, and then someone said, looks like he's going to shoot the car. And the next minute there was a scream, a couple of legs jumped up in the front seat of the F100 over there.
Nearby campers rushed to her aid before she was airlifted to the Royal Newcastle Hospital. The spear entered her left forearm, its barbed tip emerging below the elbow. Bolt cutters were used to cut the shaft before it could be withdrawn. Police interviewed a number of the girl's companions and are satisfied the wounding was an accident, but say it's the latest on a list of crowd control problems at the popular site. Other campers fear it won't be the last, with an influx of people and vehicles and an apparent disregard for safety and the environment.
Something's got to be done, you know, like people don't respect it. Look at this. It's a pigsty, it is. You've got to do something about it. I don't want to see the place closed down, but nation's closing it down, is it?
The 16 members of the English squad range in age from 15 to 18, and for many it's the first trip down under and the first blast of the Aussie summer sun.
We've been over here for 2 weeks now and we're just getting used to it, I think. So hopefully the next few games we'll do a bit better and put the weather behind us.
The team landed on the Gold Coast late last month and is playing its way down to Sydney. They were out on the field this morning hindering the Newcastle and Regions side in its bid for the inaugural Commonwealth Cup. The locals were one up in the two-match decider, but the English were determined to put their test side countrymen's losses aside and get on with the job.
After our defeat last week, we're looking forward to perhaps winning this game and squaring it 1-1.
The Newcastle team was playing the polite host, but it was also playing to win. The match continues until late into the day. Meanwhile, a leadfoot from the other side of the Atlantic won the Sprint Car Grand National event at the Newcastle Motordrome. American Danny Smith weaved his way through a packed field to take the checkered flag.
The new commercial was previewed at City Hall last night, with many of the personalities who participated having a sneak peek at the finished product. The original has become an unofficial anthem for the region, and the latest version aims to recapture the spirit that made the first campaign so successful. This ad, produced by the Newcastle Permanent Building Society, focuses on the people of the Hunter, with a cast of thousands and a few well-known faces, including Mark Sargent, Norm Duffy and Mark Richards. A series of television commercials will be followed up on radio and in print media.
Just under 200 Newcastle restaurants were studied, along with 1,365 customers. The findings were a boost for the anti-smoking lobby. 74% of the customers were non-smokers, so too 71% of staff. And the most telling result of all, 90% of customers said they wanted smoke-free areas in restaurants. Despite that, the study showed only 2% of the city's restaurants are smoke-free, with another 17% providing smoke-free areas. According to one of the study coordinators, Professor Rob Sanson-Fisher, the results have been a rude awakening for many restaurateurs.
I just don't think they've been in touch with what their clientele are asking for. In our study, somewhere about 90% of people wanted some smoke-free areas. Restaurateurs thought only about 65% of the people did.
In response, the Quit for Life group has prepared these cards to be distributed among the restaurants. They'll be offered to customers who, by filling them out, can indicate they would eat at that particular restaurant more often if it provided smoke-free dining. Well, here I am in the smoke-free zone of one popular Newcastle restaurant, and as you can see, it's a pretty lonely place to be. In fact, according to many restaurant managers, that's not unusual. Despite the study showing that 90% of potential diners find smoking in restaurants offensive, it seems when it comes time to sit down and eat, most really don't seem to mind.
We offer people, if they like to sit in the garden or if they like to sit in the non-smoking section. Most people, or everybody so far, has opted to sit in the garden section. No one has wanted to sit in the non-smoking section. We have been offering on the telephone people, if they'd like to sit in the non-smoking section. Down here you can see where they're marked non-smoker, 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 non-smoker. 4 out of the whole page, and that's for coming Valentine's Day.
Main Nicholas needs outlay only a further $17 million to buy Hospitals of Australia Limited, consisting of 6 hospitals, including the Warners Bay Private and Christo Road at Waratah. The bid values the company at $43 million. Hospitals of Australia was launched in the mid-80s by 2 Newcastle businessmen, Neville Hines and Jeff Leonard. Their combined interests, 11 million shares, have already been bought by Main Nicholas, bringing that company's present shareholding to 82%. The bid follows Main Nicholas's decision earlier this month to buy another company, Hospital Corporation of Australia, which has 9 facilities Australia-wide, including Lingard Hospital at Merewether. If successful, Main Nicholas will become Australia's largest private hospital owner, with 1,900 beds in 23 hospitals. A company official said it's too early to say how the 2 hospital groups will interrelate, but common ownership will mean an improved service for patients.
For the past 5 years, the National Park Advisory Committee has been looking at the future of the 20-hectare site. Last August, a variety of options went on display. Another committee was then formed to gauge public opinion. Its recommendations were accepted by Newcastle Council 2 weeks ago. But last night, Alderman Don Geddes moved to have it rescinded. He claims the National Park Committee had not consulted the sporting groups who use the park.
I think what they have attempted to do is preclude sporting groups from having any interest or say. It's been obvious from the way some of their meetings have been run.
But the chairman of that committee disagrees.
The history of the development of this plan has shown that there's been an enormous amount of consultation during the development of the plan, and again, once the plan was tabled, the consultant held open days and there were plenty of opportunities for everyone to have their say.
Mr Geddes also condemns the second committee, even though it comprises his fellow aldermen.
But I'm not satisfied in my own mind at this stage that there has been sufficient input from the sporting groups to make me certain that their recommendation is in fact the right decision.
The now dormant plan includes moving athletics activities once a new facility is built near Newcastle University, leaving a grass track and low fencing, and moving women's hockey to District Park once the International Hockey Centre is set up.
The BHP Hunter swimmers could be forgiven for taking it easy today. They'll need every ounce of available energy to deal with some awesome opposition at the New South Wales Open Championships, which begin in Sydney tomorrow.
The AOS team will be in full strength, the whole team will come. We've also got the swimmers returning from the World Championships who have stayed in training. They're going to be there, so it's going to be the best meet of the year.
The 15-member high-performance squad has an average age of just 16, but coach Eric Arnold is certain his young chargers will more than hold their own against their world-class opponents.
They've had a great preparation. The opposition is going to be very, very tough, but I think these kids are going to come through and do some great things this weekend.
And the one to watch will be 13-year-old Mandy Hector. Today she received an early Valentine. Tomorrow she'll be chasing a gold medal. Last year she swam the fastest 200-metre butterfly ever recorded by a 12-year-old girl, and she's confident of retaining her New South Wales Open crown.
Well, we've had a really good taper and I've been training really hard lately, so I feel really good this year. So it should go really well.
Iraq says 288 civilians died in the attack. Meanwhile, the bombing has become a focus of anti-American feeling, with thousands of Iraqis taking to the streets to mourn the dead. Iraq has vowed revenge for the bombing. Overnight, 2 Scud missiles were launched at Saudi Arabia. One of the weapons crashed harmlessly into the desert. The second broke up, showering a hospital and debris and injuring 4 people. In other developments, Kuwait's exiled government says Iraqi troops have executed more than 200 civilians in the past month. New videos show homes and shops looted in Kuwait City and trucks ready to carry the spoils back to Baghdad. A committee set up to look at the management of Blackbutt Reserve decided against having a cycleway in the park just days before the Cycleways movement submitted a proposal calling for cycle paths. The committee believes Blackbutt must be protected, and one way of doing that is by keeping vehicles and cycles out.
Blackbutt's a unique type of park, the only one we have in Newcastle, and over the years it's been very contentious items about cars through Blackbutt and roadways through Blackbutt, and now we have the cycleways coming forward through Blackbutt. I think we should preserve Blackbutt for the pristine park type it is, and it's the only one we have in Newcastle.
However, Alderman Lanham concedes there must be a cycleway connecting existing paths at McCaffrey Drive and St James Road, and that may have to infringe on the reserve.
Maybe that is the way to go, but it depends. You know, you can't just build a cycleway right round the outside. If you build a cycleway, it's got to be a little way in.
Council will have the final say on the matter, and there's no doubt it will cause much debate.
Well, it was a chance that we weren't prepared to take, and I don't think that that's the thing that we should do, so we called for backup.
Fighter World is designed as a giant hangar displaying the military muscle, past and present, of the Australian Air Force. The political muscle of Defence Minister Senator Robert Ray was here to officially open Fighter World and mark the 50th anniversary of the RAF at Williamtown. The Senator was given a guided tour of the display, which includes Mirage jets and a Vampire fighter plane. $800,000 has been outlaid, with funds from the federal and local governments, plus 30 private sponsors. Another $1.5 million is to be spent on a simulated Hornet ride and viewing platforms. But for Defence Minister Ray, the military issue of the Gulf War was never too far away. Senator Ray was quick to confirm the government's line on the Iraqi offer of withdrawal from Kuwait.
Well, certainly we wouldn't entertain it on the conditions he's listed, but I mean it's a good sign that for the first time ever he's talking about withdrawal.